The world's richest man is among Donald Trump's latest nominations for his cabinet. Elon Musk is the US president-elect's pick for a new department responsible for government cost-cutting. Trump's also chosen his Secretary of Defense, as well as the head of the CIA. Phil Lavelle has the details from Washington, D.C.
A number of key appointments now made by Donald Trump. Some names people will recognize, others they may not, but certainly some faces. For example, Pete Hegseth has been named as Donald Trump's preference for Secretary of Defense. Now, he's actually a presenter on Fox News, which of course is Donald Trump's favorite news network. It's one that he often calls into. Pete Hegseth presents a show called Fox and Friends in the morning, which is the show Donald Trump regularly calls into. Although he is also somebody with a military background. He served time in Iraq, he served time in Afghanistan, and he has worked at Guantanamo Bay in Cuba. So he does bring some military experience to the role. But what it does go to show is it just underlines the relationship between the Trump administration and Fox News. You may remember back in 2016, there was virtually a revolving door of staff who went from Fox News HQ to the White House and back. Other appointments, we have John Ratcliffe, who's been nominated or will be nominated to be the CIA director. He is a Trump loyalist. He served as a director of national intelligence under Donald Trump. And Kristi Noem, she is the governor of South Dakota. At one point, she was in line to become vice president. We understand she was on that list. She's now been named as a nominee for the head of the Department of Homeland Security, a crucial role. We understand that she did fall out of favor with Donald Trump at one point because she revealed in a book that she had shot dead a 14-month-old dog because she was unable to trade him, although it now appears that she has fallen back into the fold. And all of these roles have to be confirmed by the Senate. But remember, the Republicans own the Senate, so it seems that there will be very little friction for Donald Trump there. The other big news was the announcement that Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy will lead this newly established Department of Government Efficiency. Now, this was not a surprise because Donald Trump had said before the election that Elon Musk would be involved. Both he and Vivek Ramaswamy are entrepreneurs. They've been involved with startups. The idea is that they will come in. This new department will look at government spending. It will look at government departments. It will work out where to cut, where to make operations leaner and more nimble, and therefore make it a better deal for the American taxpayer. And one thing worth noting is the Department of Government Efficiency is also going to be known as DOGE. And those four letters are what works into Dogecoin, which is Elon Musk's favorite cryptocurrency, which perhaps is no coincidence. Phil Lavelle, Al Jazeera, Washington.
Well, Eric Ham is a US political analyst. He joins us live from Washington, D.C. Eric, thank you so much for joining us. Surprised by the names that have been put forward at all? I mean, do you think they have enough experience for their potential roles? When you look at some of them, like as our correspondent there was saying, Pete Hegseth, a TV host, Trump says he's anti-woke. Is that enough to make a good defense secretary? Are these the right people for those roles?
Well, we have to remember right now, the United States is actually involved in overseeing the war in Ukraine as well as the conflict in Gaza. And when you're talking about the Defense Department, that's one of the largest government agencies in the country right now. It's a multi-billion-dollar, $100 billion agency. In fact, many say that if it were a standalone company, it would be one of the largest Fortune 500 companies in the world. So we're talking about a labyrinth of bureaucracy. And while Pete Hegseth certainly has experience having served in the military, to actually be able to get your arms around just the size and scope, not only of the agency itself, but to direct an agency in the way that he is now going to be tasked with so many global challenges confronting him. This seems like this will be an enormous task for someone who has very little, if any, experience whatsoever in leading such a large agency or organization.
Yeah, and a huge task would be ahead of them, especially given international politics at the moment, as you mentioned there, the war on Gaza. Now, how do these compare to his choices in his first presidential term? And do these nominations indicate that Trump's policies this time around are different?
Well, it's interesting because when Donald Trump came in the first time, we know that he brought in a lot of high-level former CEOs, people from the business world people who were known for their vast wealth. And of course, that was seen as perhaps the experience that Trump wanted to project. But of course, many of those same people are people who also fell out with Donald Trump in that first term. We know that there was a massive revolving door within his administration, with so many people leaving or being fired, and also leaving with, castigating Donald Trump in the way he managed and led from the White House. But now what we're seeing, contrast that with people who are deeply loyal to Donald Trump. And I think more than anything right now, that is what Donald Trump believes to be a priority. Will this actually work when you consider particularly so many massive issues that these people, particularly on the foreign policy space, are going to have to face? It's still very, very early to tell, but it does appear as though a lot of these people have their work cut out for them.
Yeah, I mean, as you said there, it's really interesting to see if these decisions are based on loyalty and not necessarily on domestic or international policies. But now let's look at Elon Musk, for example. He's an interesting one because he completely gutted what was formerly known as Twitter, and now he's going to co-lead this government efficiency department. What do you think Elon Musk means when he said to expect shockwaves? That was his response when he found out he was being appointed.
This is actually going to be, I think, an interesting mix, because you've got Donald Trump himself and Elon Musk, two people who are not only very combustible, but also deeply, deeply unpredictable. And it's I think what will be interesting about this appointment is how long will this appointment last? But more importantly, how long before we see these two men at odds with one another? And I think that's what is going to be, I think, what's so close and interesting to watch in terms of how these two men operate.
Yep, an interesting one to watch indeed. Thank you very much, Eric Ham, US political analyst from Washington, D.C.
Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.